Now available in paperback and e-readers, Isis, All About the Goddess. The Goddess Next Door bears all in the art studio to catch a campus stalker in this action-packed Isis series mystery. Get your copy of Isis, All About the Goddess in paperback and e-readers at online booksellers everywhere. Hollywood Historical Women in Crisis. One of my viewers wanted me to do another installment in the Hollywood Historical Women in Crisis series. And for this installment in the Hollywood Historical Women in Crisis series, I'm going to be talking about Gypsy Rose Lee, also known as Louise Hovick, and her stage mother, Rose Thompson Hovick. All images used in this video are under fair use of United States copyright law of 1976 and are used in conjunction with my commentary. Now, the first Hollywood historical woman in crisis I'm going to be talking about is Rose Thompson Hovick. Now, Rose Thompson Hovick was the mother of iconic 20th century burlesque dancer Gypsy Rose Lee and her sister, actress and dancer June Hovick, and the story of how she made her daughters wind up on the road to becoming women in crisis is dramatized in the 20th century musical Gypsy. Now, Rose Thompson Hovick was a woman in crisis because she had what I believe to be the Jezebel spirit. And because she had the Jezebel spirit, she did not want to submit to her husband, who she married when she was a teenager, and because she did not want to go out here and submit to her husband, she wanted to go out here and be her own woman, and worse, she wanted to go out here and take her children and take them down the road to becoming entertainers. Now, Rose Thompson Hovick had no ethics whatsoever and reportedly had multiple birth certificates for her two girls, reporting them as being several years older or younger in order to be able to evade child labor laws or able to get free fares on trains and other buses as they traveled. And what she wanted to do was go out here and make her daughters into performers, not ever thinking about what was good for the girls. And things got so bad between Rose Thompson Hovick and her husband that because the father wanted to see the girls just basically grow up like regular girls, that she wound up divorcing her husband and then went out here and married another beta male, Judson Brenneman, a traveling salesman, so that she could go out here and have more power over her daughters. So she wanted to have power and control over her daughters, so she divorced her husband, did not want to submit to him, and brought in another beta male to be a stepfather. And this is something most modern women do today because they don't want to submit to the authority of a husband. What they do is they divorce their husband and then they go recruit some beta male figurehead to be either a stepfather or be a man in their child's life so that they can go out here and have the power and authority over their children and not have this man go out here and make any sort of noise as related to challenging her authority, because the stepfather or beta male man she brings into the home, he looks to submit to the woman, and all he's looking to do is gain sexual access to that woman and has no real regard for the welfare of those daughters. No, it is the biological father in most cases who is the only one who is truly concerned about the welfare of their daughters. And sadly, what happened with Rose Thompson Hovick is she made sure to go out here and alienate the children from their father by divorcing their father and then moving the children far away from their father so that he could not go out here and be able to take care of his daughters by going out here and nurturing them. Now, as Rose Thompson Hovick went out here and divorced her children's father. What she did was go out here and again, after getting involved with this beta male, showed that her obsession with power was so much that she didn't even stay in that relationship for long before she wound up leaving the beta male, who basically was just there to get his taste of the atomic waste. And after he got his taste of the atomic waste from the special place, Rose Thompson Hovick then went out here looking to, again, maintain her power base. And the way she looked to maintain her power base was by going out here and controlling how she made her own money. And the way Rose Thompson Hovick made her own money, in addition to exploiting her daughters, was running a farm on Highland Mills, New York, and a boarding house in New York City. And inside of that boarding house in New York City, she had a 10-room apartment on the seedy side of West End Avenue in Manhattan. And inside of that 10-room apartment, she was, again, renting rooms out to women. And at some point, a woman by the name of Genevieve Augustin, who was allegedly said to be Rose Thompson Hovick's mother, allegedly made a pass at the daughter, Gypsy Rose Lee, as she was visiting. And in a jealous rage, this is where Rose Thompson Hovick allegedly shot this woman dead, and the incident was explained in the media as a suicide. However, after the woman's mother went out here and demanded an investigation, a case was opened, but a jury declined to indict. And I believe that the jury declined to indict because they didn't want to deal with all of the sordid details of this alphabet relationship, and because they didn't want to deal with all the sordid details of this relationship, and also dealing with the just whole nature of Gypsy Rose Lee's business, which was burlesque. They didn't want to have that sort of scandal in the papers, so they basically buried the story overall and denied justice to this alphabet woman. Now, this whole case, again, showed how ruthless Rose Thompson Hovick was, and Rose Thompson Hovick further showed her ruthlessness as related to other incidents in her life. That one involved a hotel manager who Rose Thompson Hovick allegedly pushed out a window to his death. And while she claimed self-defense and wasn't charged, it just basically shows how gynocentric our criminal justice system was even then, because Rose Thompson Hovick's ruthlessness further escalated, and she tried to shoot a guy named Bobby Reed, a young man who eloped with Baby June in 1928. And this just showed, again, the ruthlessness of Rose Thompson Hovick, because her daughter June wanted to go out here and have a life with this man, but because she wanted her daughters to be entertainers, she would go out here and shoot the man that she wanted to be with, again showing how ruthless Rose Thompson Hovick was and how ruthless she was overall. Again, this was a woman who had no qualms about her daughter participating in burlesque, which was considered to be at the time a very seedy profession, and the whole idea of a daughter going out here being encouraged by her mother to go out here and participate in a striptease. This just showed how little ethics Rose Thompson Hovick had, and how she really was not a nurturing woman who was concerned about her children's safety or even intangibles of their womanhood, such as their dignity. No, she didn't care about protecting her daughter's image or protecting her daughter's reputation. No, it was all about her getting fame. It was all about her getting the accolades through her daughter vicariously. And it was all about her getting the attention through her daughters vicariously. This was all Rose Thompson Hovick cared about. And it just shows me how deeply influenced she was under the Jezebel spirit. Now, some people will say that she was a stage mom, but as a stage mom, she basically, again, was running through the Jezebel spirit and was all caught up in her ambitions of success, to the point where she turned her daughters and took them down the road to not only becoming women in crisis, but also being turned out by the entertainment industry, where both of these daughters were basically exploited by the entertainment industry, because and no mother who loves her daughter wants her down that road to burlesque. No, a true mother who loves her daughter would be encouraging her at the time to go out here and get an education, go out here and work with a man towards building a family. But because Rose Thompson Hovick was all caught up in her ambitions, she didn't look to love her daughters. No, what she wanted to do was go out here and wanted to, again, take her daughters down the road to depravity and debauchery, and was so abusive to her daughters that she continued to foster a codependent relationship with both of her daughters, both Gypsy Rose Lee and her sister June Hovick, basically looking to get both of these daughters in a codependent relationship, because the only thing that mattered to her was money. Everything that mattered to her was about getting money, and she didn't care about her daughters because, again, a mother who loved her daughters would not put them on a road to a seedy career as a stripper. A mother who loved her daughters would not put them in dysfunctional situations. No, a mother who loved her daughter would have gone out here and been looking to protect her daughter and help to make their daughters be the best they could be. But with Rose Thompson Hovick, she wasn't interested in making her daughters the best they could be. No, it was all about her getting what she wanted, and as she got what she wanted, she wound up taking her daughters down the road to becoming women in crisis. Now, the second Hollywood historical woman in crisis I'm going to be talking about is Gypsy Rose Lee. Now, Gypsy Rose Lee was an American burlesque performer who was known for her legendary striptease act, and later in life she was also an actress, author, and playwright, and her 1957 memoir, Gypsy, was turned into a musical that it was a major one for the 20th century, Gypsy, which was also adapted into a movie. Now, Gypsy Rose Lee started out life being born Rose Louise Hovick, and she wound up on the road to becoming a woman in crisis due to her mother's ambitions to make her children into entertainers. And Rose Louise Hovick's mother was so ruthless as related to pursuing her daughters and having careers in entertainment that she divorced their father and alienated from their father by moving them away from their father and getting involved with another beta male, Judson Brenneman, a traveling salesman, a man who would be too busy to assert authority over the home. And she did this because, again, she was so ambitious about getting her kids into entertainment that she did not want to submit to the authority of the child's father. So she divorced Rose and June's father and then decided to marry a beta male, Judson Brenneman. And because Judson Brenneman was a traveling salesman and on the road, this is where Rose Thompson Hovick took advantage of the situation, and took advantage of the situation because she would be able to maintain power in the family and be the matriarchal de facto head of household. And this whole matriarchal situation just wasn't enough for her with Judson Brenneman being on the road, and because she wanted to have complete power over her daughter Rose Louise Hovick and her sister June, what she did was divorce Judson Brenneman and then decided to support the family by appearing in vaudeville, using her daughter June's toe dancing as a way to go out here and make money on them. And again, this was a girl who was only 2.5 years old, billed as the tiniest toe dancer in the world, but it just showed how ruthless her mother, Rose Thompson Hovick, was as related to getting her daughters into the entertainment industry. She would basically take a child who was in their developing years and put them on the road to entertainment, and was so greedy and ambitious that she basically decided to go to Hollywood for 2 years to try to build up June's career, as she appeared in short films directed by Hal Roach, leaving Rose Louise Hovick behind, and while June and her mother were on the road. But in that time, Rose did get an elementary education, unlike June, who was taught to read by stagehands. And the relationship between June and her mother, Rose, got so strained that eventually June wound up becoming alienated from her mother after she decided to get involved with a dancer, Bobby Reed. And as she got involved with a dancer, Bobby Reed, she decided to elope with Bobby Reed and marry him. However, because Rose wanted to go out here and maintain power over her daughter, she sabotaged their relationship by shooting Bobby Reed. And after she wound up shooting Bobby Reed, she then wound up alienating her daughter, June, to the point where June wound up leaving the family. Now, June went on to have a career in marathon dancing and then went on to become an actress herself. And June went on to become June Havoc and have a long storied career outside of her mother. And because the mother, Rose Louise Hovick, couldn't take care of herself without June, what happened was Louise's singing and dancing talents weren't enough to sustain the act. So Rose steered her daughter down the road to burlesque so she could go out here and make money. So what she did was steer her daughter down a road to immorality, because being a burlesque performer was something that was considered to be a very seedy career. And it's really troubling that a mother would steer her daughter down this road, because it showed that this mother loved money more than her daughter. Now, a mother, like I stated before, truly cares about her children and wants to nurture them. Moreover, she wants what's best for them, and she wants to go out here and protect her daughters from being exploited. But with Rose Thompson Hovick, she didn't care about Rose Louise Hovick, the daughter with her name, and didn't care, and basically was looking to project her ambitions onto her daughter, to the point where she sent her out to participate in the burlesque acts and turned her into a stripper. And as she turned her into a stripper, her legendary act started with was a result of a shoulder strap on one of her gowns giving way, causing the dress to fall at her feet. And this started her down the road to becoming a stripper, as related to the strip tease. And she also brought some humor and comedy into this act. And this is what she did throughout the 1930s, going out here participating in this burlesque act all throughout the Depression. And as she participated in this burlesque act, she became an extremely popular performer until eventually the entire burlesque scene was shut down and many of the burlesque clubs were shut down. And then eventually, after the burlesque clubs were shut down, she eventually started to go out here and started to look to get work in films, but her acting was generally panned as related to her performances. And as she was out here still, again, looking to participate in burlesque and then further wanting to try to build a career, she then started working on becoming a writer. And as she worked to become a writer, she did a thriller called The G-String Murders. She wrote a book called The G-String Murders, and that was turned into a film called Lady of Burlesque, starring Barbara Stanwyck. Now, some say this film was ghostwritten, but Gypsy Rose Lee says that she wrote this book. And she also was out here looking to, again, further build her career as a writer. And as she went out here, she wrote, again, the book G-String Murders, which was turned into Lady of Burlesque, and also went on to continue being a writer, eventually writing the iconic memoir Gypsy, which I'll get into in later. But the sad part is that Gypsy Rose Lee was on the road to becoming a woman in crisis, because her mother basically indoctrinated her into the life of a burlesque performer and looked to exploit her in that life, and further looked to exploit her as related to trying to make money off of her with a codependent relationship as she got her success, and basically showed that her daughter was taken on a road to dysfunction. And as she was taken down this road to dysfunction, she wasn't able to have a healthy relationship. Now, in Hollywood, when she came to Hollywood, she married a man in 1937 at the insistence of the studio, basically trying to salvage her image as related to her being a burlesque performer, to try to make her more appealing to families, because in most cases, women don't like strippers because most women don't like strippers because they don't want to compete with another woman, and two, the woman's behavior is tawdry and immoral and reflects badly on women as a collective. So they wanted to clean it up by having her marry Arnold Bob Mizzy, but that divorce ended in 1941 with a false claim of cruelty. But it was designed so that the studio could go out here and end the marriage and have them just separate and they can get back to business. Now, in 1942, she married William Alexander Kirkland, and while she was with William Alexander Kirkland, she then was out here with Otto Preminger, a legendary whoremonger male who had basically been running through women like the late Dorothy Dandridge. But before he ran through Dorothy Dandridge, he had himself a taste of the Gypsy Rose Lee atomic waste, and as a result of that, Gypsy Rose Lee gave birth to her only son, and as she gave birth to her only son, she wound up on the road to further dysfunction than her mother, because her mother had two legitimate children, but she was the first to have illegitimate children. So this basically shows how a woman who was raised by a feminist or feminist indoctrinated woman takes her children further down the road to dysfunction and makes it where they cannot go out here and build a family, and they can't build a family in the case of Gypsy Rose Lee, because she never learned how to submit to a man, she never learned how to have respect for a man, and she never learned how to have a relationship with a man due to the dysfunctional models provided to her by her mother. And because of those dysfunctional models provided to her by her mother, she never learned how to have a healthy relationship with a man, and this led to her having two failed marriages outside of the studio marriage, because she tried to marry a third man in 1948, Julio de Diego. Unfortunately, that marriage ended, and I believe all three of those marriages ended because, one, Gypsy Rose Lee had that reputation as a stripper. Two, she had been raised by a dysfunctional mother who never taught her how to submit to men. And three, she just did not know how to have a healthy relationship with a man. And four, she had a codependent mother who was basically hovering over her like the modern helicopter parent. And because her mother was hovering over her like a helicopter parent, Gypsy Rose Lee never had that safe environment where she was nurtured, and she never got to be emotionally secure with a man because her mother basically was choking the life out of her and, again, exploiting her own children. And it was interesting that June broke away from her mother before Gypsy Rose Lee did, but the only way both of those women could have any sort of freedom was when their mother passed away in the 1950s. That's when both women basically felt safe enough to be able to go out there and write about their experiences without the fear of a lawsuit. And that's when Gypsy Rose Lee wrote her legendary and iconic memoir, Gypsy, a Memoir, about her life as a child star and a life as related to the whole world of being a stripper. And that book laid the foundation for the 1959 musical Gypsy, which chronicled her life and chronicled her experiences. And again, it was that book and the musical, the 1962 movie adaptation that gave Gypsy Rose Lee economic stability. And even though the sisters June and Gypsy Rose Lee didn't like it or had issues as related to this memoir, they eventually reconciled in time as related to their family before Gypsy Rose Lee wound up passing away. And thankfully, Gypsy Rose Lee was able to go on even further than this as related to the success of the Gypsy memoir and the movie. She also went on to host a local daytime show, the Gypsy Rose Lee Show, which ran for 3 years, from 1965 to 1968. So she had a lot of great success as related to her life, but sadly, she didn't have much success as related to relationships, and that was all due to her mother's just ruthless ambitions, which sadly put Gypsy Rose Lee on the road to becoming a woman in crisis, a woman who was basically exploited and taken advantage of, not by men, but by women, put on that road by a woman, her mother, who was completely ruthless, and completely ruthless to the point where she didn't even care about her daughter's image, didn't care about her daughter's dignity, didn't care about her daughter's whole just reputation. She didn't want to make her daughters into wives. She wanted to make them into just dysfunctional women. And this is sadly why Gypsy Rose Lee went on to become a woman in crisis. Thankfully, she was able to turn her life around towards the end, but she turned her life around towards the end without the help of her mother. But sadly, she was on that road to becoming a woman in crisis due to her mother. Now, if you want to learn why so many women wind up on the road to becoming women in crisis and winding up on this dysfunctional road to become where they just wind up on a bad life paradigm, you can pick up my book, The Woman Crisis, on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format. You can also find The Woman Crisis at other online booksellers like Smashwords, the iBookstore, Google Play, Barnes & Noble, Walmart, and Target. And if you want to see me make more videos about Hollywood historical women in crisis, you can send a donation to the Patreon, the PayPal, or the Cash App. And if you send it through the Cash App, I can make that video faster. And if I know something about that subject, about that woman in crisis, I will definitely make that video for you. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe. Now available in paperback and e-readers, John Haynes' Godbreaker. The man who rules the world takes on the Asgardian god of thunder in this action-packed, all-new John Haynes series adventure. Get your copy of John Haynes' Godbreaker in paperback and e-readers at online booksellers everywhere. Support Black-owned and Black-operated digital broadcast media. www.niceradionetwork.com. Nice Radio Network, broadcasting 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.